First, I'm glad to have everybody here. University of Understanding. University of Understanding. You start hearing different views, you think about them, it drives you for deeper thought, it makes you look at what you believe and why you believe it, and then you begin researching. And at the end of the day, you think you've learned more, and then you find out there's still more to learn. We find it in our minds. How does that impact what is going on in our society, and how do we change that if we need to change that, or do we need to change that? So I've started Erase Race, and most of you know that I have this Erase Race concept because when I was working on one of my master's degrees, I had to do this research paper on, and it was a class on culture, and we were talking about what can you do to give us an example of something you could do to change the culture. So I started identifying this idea of race and how it worked in our culture. So it was through that research that I found out, gosh, this is really not fundamental science. This is not sound. This is not logical. And as I began to research, then I came up with this idea: race really isn't real. Stumbled across a book. By the way, I'm timing myself. Everybody's got 3 minutes, so I'm timing myself. I got a timer here. And but I ran across this book by Ashley Montague called "The Man's Most Dangerous Myth: The Fallacy of Race." And it was just phenomenal. 1942, he wrote the book, and he was talking about that in view of what he saw them doing in Germany and what Hitler was doing, but he had more historical knowledge than that. And so as he was talking about that, I began looking at all of the research he had done and these things, and I went, wow, we've been letting that rule us for a long time. And this is the problem. Race is the problem. This ideology that we have of race is the problem. It's not the fact that I see you as white, you see me as black, and it's the very idea of race that's the problem, And so we think the problem starts at racism, which is something that happens as a result of this idea of race. The problem is race. And so what we've been doing for the last, I guess you say since slavery, was we were trying to solve the problem with the problem. So you can't, if you don't start at the beginning with race and you start with racism, then you are not solving the problem, because we started racism, which is simply an effect of the problem of race. And so that's what I did. And this is most exemplified. I'm going to share the screen with you all right quick so you can see this. I was in a discussion with a guy just this past week. And let me go to it. Here it is. And let me launch this so y'all can see a big screen. And so we were having this discussion about my view on race, okay? So he's the guy in the yellow box and I'm the guy in the red box, all right? And so this is the way most people, and these are the kind of discussions you have about race, and this is just clarifying the way I view race. So we both agree that race is a bad thing. We agree that race was designed to subjugate people, and and it was to facilitate slavery here in America. And so that's why we got this idea of race. So this is what he responded in the yellow box. He said, after all, it was white men who created the concept of race, and chemists around the globe declaring themselves to be inherently superior while deeming those who are non-white to be innately inferior and subhuman. To which I agreed, and I responded in the red box, and I said, I think the proper way to respond to what he used, the white man who created the devious concept of race, would be not to use, parenthesis, race, what they created, not to use what they created. And so he did that. And so he responded in the yellow box. He said, it is too little, too late. The genie has left the bottle and has no intention of going back, for white men should have thought twice and they did not. And so then I made it very personal. I said, well, what about you? Do you feel like you have to submit to their evil invention? They created it, so you feel trapped by it and have to use it? Of course, those who support that concept will, but what about you? So I made it very personal, to which I got no response after that. So, so we might agree on, and so racist is bad concept. Then my next question would be for people, then why use it? Because if that's true, and they did do this and created it for that reason, why should we use it? So that's my view, okay? There's Delbert DeWitty. Thank you, Delbert. Glad to have you on. But it's on you, Delbert. I'm timing your 3 minutes. You're on.
Perfect. My name is Delbert DeWitty, and I am a historian, and I view everything from that prism. So from an historical perspective, I honestly don't know what my definition of race is, which is the assignment I was given. This is not simply trying to avoid the question. Let me explain. Per the Bible, the Garden of Eden is somewhere in Africa, and so is Noah's Ark. Specifically, most people think Turkey. DNA evidence now has proven that the first Chinese and first British were Black. Is Jewish or race or religion? That's been debated for thousands of years. It is generally accepted that someone, and I'll put that in quotes, changed Jesus from Black to white, but beginning any discussion with that premise is challenging at best. Considering skin pigmentation, in America, there are African Americans, which I would call melanin challenged, who are considered Black, while in India and Arabia, there are people multiple shades darker than that who are considered white. So I'll just stop right there, and I'm sure I'm well under my 3 minutes.
No, you still got 1:30 to go. If you
Well,
got
I'll just stop. I mean, because I could belabor it, then I'll get down a rat hole, and I don't want to do that early.
okay. Before you go, Delbert, you grew up in California, lived there all your life, or can you give us a little background?
No, I'm sorry. I've traveled quite a bit. I'm originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street, and that is a whole story within itself. That had a significant impact on who I am. I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, it has really been a profound experience growing up in Black Wall Street. Went to University of Oklahoma, left there, took a job with AT&T, one of the first affirmative action babies. That's a whole nother discussion I could go into, which I will not. Traveled around a lot with the job. And actually, that's where I got obsessed with history. While I was with AT&T, we owned an Israeli firm out of Tel Aviv, and I would go there about once a quarter for about 3 years. Doing one of those trips, I discovered a kibbutz community called African Hebrew Israelites. I'd spent several time periods with them, took my family over there. That had a significant impact on my view now. Again, as you see, if I get going too far, I'll really get in some rat holes, and I don't want to run over my 3 minutes.
2-1-0, perfect timing, outstanding.
Hey, everybody. So I am Ted. I'm a Methodist minister and serving in Houma, Louisiana right now. I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas during desegregation. I was raised in a Jewish family with a very Jewish attitude towards community. Experienced some really bad things during desegregation for me personally and others I know, but it never affected who I am and how I see the world around me, or maybe it did, but not as far as, I was bussed over to the east side of town, which was at that time, the lower end Black community, to go to school. And I I always kind of jokingly, but only half, say, I got to see my first murder in school there as a 6th grader in middle school. It informed who I am and how I see race, not in a negative way towards the Black community, which I had to deal with during those years, but in a way that kind of gave me some insights into some of the things going on that they experienced that I did not. However, as a Jew growing up in Little Rock, Arkansas, it was an interesting experience as well, because people didn't understand Judaism or Jews in those days near as openly and well as they do today, and it also informed me. I had this visceral reaction to today's expression of racial animus. I have spent my life being involved with, anytime I could, being involved with bringing people together. That's why I'm a minister now. I've been in the ministry for 14 years. I went there largely because of my experiences in life, and a lot of it had to do with the way the world treats one another, and some of it according to race, or however you want to define that. My definition of race, I gave you it. For me, race is just a subset of humanity. We've developed different pigments of skin, different facial features, different sizes, different. That's, to me, what defines a race. I'm 50% Ashkenazi Jew. That defines me to a certain degree as far as my race goes, but it's a subset of humanity, of the human race. There is no better or worse. We just simply have developed some different things from living in different parts of the world. So that to me is race, and it's real and exists. To say that one race, though, is superior to the other, to me, is an abomination. It's ignorance, and it is a form of power. Now, did white people invent that? I could argue that all day long. Delbert, you too ought to be able to do that from a historical viewpoint. I mean, slavery and peoples because of their color or where they raised or who raised them has been a part of the human condition far back as history goes, as far as I can tell. So being a part of this conversation for so many years, and I'll get into that later.
Okay, great. All right, thanks, Ted. Okay. Okay. Heather, are you listening or you want to talk?
I will just listen.
Okay, Heather's just going to listen. Ricky.
Hey, my name's Ricky Reeby. I'm retired and I've been happily divorced for 20 years. So,
whoa. Man, we're going to have to spend some time talking about that, but go ahead. We're going to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's a whole nother subject. I'm going to start off reading something here. He has excited domestic insurrection against us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. That's a quote from some guy that wrote a little thing called the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America. That is what they wrote. These founding fathers. And my argument is racism is systemic in the American, in the country of America, in the government in America, in everything that America does. They had this idea even when they were making up the founding fathers, and you can go to. That's not the only thing. You can go to verses of the national anthem, which I'm sure that everybody's familiar with. Now, from where the point of view that I come from, my name's Enrique Uribe. I agree a lot with what Felipe Simmons is. Is Felipe here?
No, he's not.
No, he's not here. But I'm Hispanic. I wonder if he's Hispanic, but I'm Hispanic, and our people, my people, have been living here in Texas. I don't know where everybody's from, but I'm from Texas, and we've been living here in the Texas region for eons. We've been here. Yeah, we might have lived on the other side in Mexico, but we've been living in the Rio Grande Valley. And then all of a sudden, somebody just drew a line and said, this is Mexico, this is Texas, At one point it was Spain. At one point it was France. At one point it was even the Confederate States of America. So, but we as a people have been here this whole time. And Hispanics, especially Latins, of the kind of northern Hispanics, have always called themselves La Raza, which is literally means race, but it's in context. A lot of times it means people, it means community. So that is where my when you say race, I think raza, and I think that's how I think. That's where I'm thinking from. So
Very good. Thanks, Ricky. You had 10 seconds to spare. You're good, man. All right. And next we've got Kim Kroon. So come on in, Kim, and you're on. Kim. She has
Sorry,
there
I
she,
had
there
to get
she
off-
is. Hey, Kim.
I'm sorry, I had to get off mute. Let's see. Okay, I'm on the clock. So, in my opinion, race is a social construct that was created to divide people according to skin color and or blood composition. Now, I believe race is a complex concept that can mean a variety of things all at one time. And I have 3 quick quotes to read to you to demonstrate. This quote is from Edward R. Murrow, and it says, "Everyone is a prisoner of his own experiences. No one can eliminate prejudices, just recognize them." And then there's another quote from Benjamin Disraeli, which says, "The difference of race is one of the reasons why I fear war may always exist, because race implies difference. Difference implies superiority, and superiority leads to predominance." Now, I kind of disagree with one little piece of that, and it says difference implies superiority. And my thing is, it only implies superiority if that's the way you choose to look at it. It depends on the perspective of one's values on whether or not difference implies superiority. So I prefer us to appreciate, and I want to not only recognize our differences and recognize our prejudices, but to recognize that it's okay for all of us to look different and be different. And then I'll conclude with this one quote from Helen Keller, which says, "I can see in what you call the dark, but which to me is golden. I can see a God-made world, not a man-made world." And I think that pretty much sums it up, is that we have to see through God's eyes. And once we see through God's eyes, we can see varying skin colors and hues, and we don't have to call them races. Because over time, that word race has evolved into meaning a sense of someone inferior and someone superior.
And you had 20 seconds left. Outstanding, Kim. Very good. You're getting that job at Erase Races eventually. Okay. All right. You're good. All right. And Wayne's up next. Wayne Jones. Yeah, I saw the hand up. Yep. So you're on because your hand was up.
No, that wasn't a hand up. That was a clap.
Oh, that was
Kim.
a clap. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so do you want to go though? You ready to go?
I mean, I can go since I unmuted.
Okay.
Kim really said, she expressed my feelings regarding the definition almost to a T. So I'll just share just a little bit about me real quick. I grew up in San Francisco, and shout out to my cousin Delbert. We actually haven't met personally. We met on our family Overton family page, and we've been tight ever since. So, but I grew up in San Francisco, California.
We apologize for that. We apologize.
Yeah, you know, so-called liberal city, right? I remember in the 6th grade being bused from my neighborhood, which at that time was strictly, I'll use this term because most people used to, the all-black neighborhood at that time, all the way across town to the opposite. but didn't really have any issues then. 2 years later, some friends and we decided to go swimming in that same neighborhood. It was a public swimming pool and anybody could go. But problem is we stopped at a park and I got somehow got separated from the group, and these two guys, much older, they were probably 18, 19, I was probably 12, 13, assaulted me, beat me up, called me the N-word, told me to go back to my side of town. And it put a real bad, obviously bad taste in my mouth as a young teenager, just budding teenager. And I started really having this deep-seated hatred for people who were not from my community. Fast forward 4 years later, my father moves. Some of you guys are used to this term. He went back home. So he left San Francisco and moved back to Arkansas. Ted, I don't know if you're familiar with Newport, Jonesboro, Tuckerman area. Anyway, that's where my dad moved back to, and I went with him. And so you got this kid, 16 years old, who left San Francisco, the big city, who had some experiences there. Now I moved to Arkansas, a small town in Arkansas. And I had a lot of experience, no time to go in it. But so again, a lot of just anger built up, a lot of racial hatred towards certain groups. I got along with them in school, certain people, but there was a lot who I just, I didn't like. So now I'm gonna fast forward a long time. San Francisco State University, came back to California, went there, became part of the Black Studies Department, which, if you guys know, in 1968, the race riot, is police, the city mayor, the governor, it was horrible at San Francisco State. But it was the birthing of a program called Black Studies. And Enrique mentioned La Raza. We had a La Raza department there. It was a lot of different things going on. And it was all based on race. So I will skip forward because there's a lot, but it makes me think, when we talk about this, it makes me think about the scene in Spike Lee's Malcolm X movie, when he had him looking in the dictionary. His Islam teacher had him looking in the dictionary. All the definitions of Black were evil. All the definitions of white were good. So he was basically telling them, don't believe this stuff, but at the same time, he was telling them, stay in the box, continue to do it. So it was confusing. So I'll stop right there.
Perfect, right on time. Down to 0. All right, great. All right, George Middleton.
Hey, good afternoon. Good stories here. I'm George Middleton, and I am a mental health, diversity, and race consultant. And I know that sounds like a weird name. And my work is really based on evidence-based strategies. So it's not based on personal opinion or ideologies. I come at it from a mental health perspective because I'm a therapist, and I see race as a primary stressor across racial lines. Whether you consider yourself Black or whether you consider yourself Black, race is equally stressing and creates challenges to your mental health. And so my job is just to create awareness, inform people, not to try to change anybody's mind. That's not the therapeutic way. It's not about trying to force somebody to agree or disagree with you. It's just to present the information. And then after I've done that, respect whatever choice that they make either way. As to the definition of race, I don't have a definition. The definition has already been historically documented. But clearly, because of people's beliefs about race, some are going to be more open to accepting that objective definition of the documented history of race ideology, or they will reject it based on their own belief system. And, I respect either way. It's just important that when I'm doing my work, I'm going to inform you of what the actual objective truth about it is. Whether you agree with it or not is on you. Personally, for me, I reject any identity of color. And as far as pertains to me, race is about color, not about culture. Hispanic, German, Jewish, those aren't races, those are cultures. Of course, people are going to disagree with that. But race is about skin color. It's about phenotype, body type, and the associated beliefs created not by the white man, but by the European. And there's also a history that predates the European in terms of how race was used and developed. But as far as from my work is concerned, I'm only dealing with as it pertains to the period that began the transatlantic slave trade and how that has affected the Americas. So I'm just zoning in on that. But that's where I'm at. And I'm glad to be here and look forward to listening and learning from everybody's point of views.
Great. Yeah, 20 seconds left, George. Good time.
Carlin,
Yes.
I can go next.
Oh, great. Okay, go ahead. Ken, you're up.
Ken. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I say I'm going, but one, I'm definitely here to listen.
Okay.
And I will say that I don't know what race is, but I know that whatever it is, people experience it differently, they define it differently, and they believe things differently about it. And I really appreciate hearing what Brother Middleton said, because I think belief is very key. Well, belief is key to everything, really. And when it comes to race, it's something that I shared with you, Carlin, a long time ago, where I spelled racism, RACE-ISM.
Yeah.
I honestly do not know what race is, besides what I've read race is, what's written about race. But I say racism is a belief in race. Whatever anybody thinks it is, it doesn't exist unless you believe in it first of all. I don't believe in it, but I can talk about it, entertain the notion, the idea, and whatever anybody's definition of it is. I just would say I don't believe in it. And some people say, just like I may get in a conversation, somebody said, like, they can tell me that they're white or whatever they are. And I'll say, I'll respect your belief. And I do respect people's belief. But I say, I do not have to accept your belief as my truth. Where I'll say, you may say you're white, and I can tell them I don't believe in white people. And I say, not that I don't believe there are people who identify as white, consider themselves white, and black also. I just put white out there. But I say, I respect that. So just from a personal standpoint, that's where I'm with race. I don't know what it is. And I'm here definitely to listen, because I learn from what different things mean to different people. Because to me, that's part of my understanding of what truth is.
Outstanding, Ken. That's Ken Hunter. And so you had a minute left. You had a lot of time. You got anything else to say?
I was going to do like those congressmen do. Like, I respectfully deferred the remainder of my time to Mr. So-and-so.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. Okay. Now I've got, let me see who else we've got. Gail, do you want to have 3 minutes?
Well, unfortunately, I'm under the weather, and talking is not one of my options, but I'm listening carefully. Okay. Sorry.
All right, no problem. Thanks, Gail. Got you.